I'll never forget my first time walking into a Muji. I found myself getting blasted by all these pleasant muted colors and bombarded by the smells that emanated from a small army of diffusers. It put me into this relaxed, suggestible state, and I'm pretty sure I almost bought a watering can by accident. What's up gamers, I'm talking about Muji, a Japanese lifestyle brand born out of a philosophy for minimalism and practicality. Their whole branding is about the absence of branding. Clean, simple, functional. They carry a wide variety of products, from kitchenware to bed sheets to organizers to apparel, but there's one line of products that I consider to be their creme de la creme, and that is stationery. Yes, the real reason I'll never forget my first time walking into Muji is because that marked the end of an era in my life where I had to obtain Muji stationery through complex and backwards means. For context, I'm gonna have to explain my school's black market for Muji. Okay, so this is us over here, Pacific Northwest vibes. And in my youth, Muji hadn't yet expanded to this part of the world, but it was widely available throughout Asia. So students who had connections to those markets became the Muji plugs. When we caught wind of the fact that they would be traveling someplace that has access to Muji, we would place orders with them and give them money before they went off. For context here, money can be exchanged for goods and services. Then they would go off and see grandma and grandpa or what have you during spring break, and we would hope that they would return carrying wares from foreign ports. And upon their arrival to North America, they would present to us the treasures that they had loaded into their carry-on bags and hauled halfway across the world for us. Honestly, at the time, this was bigger than Christmas for me. So why the hell did we do this? Why did we go to such insanely inconvenient lengths just for pens? To put it simply, I think the answer is once you go Muji, you never go back. This is a typical pen that we can get our hands on in North America. Effectively, they're free. They come from teachers, dentist's offices, maybe you found one at your university health clinic, or just rolling around on the ground and you decided to keep it. The point is, they're a dime a dozen, and the experience of writing with a big pen is so boring, so uninspiring that I can't even really articulate it. I don't even have the vocabulary. My vocabulary isn't boring enough. Half the time they plop out an unenthusiastic, greasy line of ink if you're lucky, and the other half of the time the ballpoint is so dry that it won't even dispense anything. I think the terrible pens that we were rocking in school are actually a surface level symptom of the deeper, general disrespect that we have for the education system on this continent. Don't get it twisted now, teachers are the backbone of society, but having run the gauntlet of North American public school, I can attest to their absolutely abysmal working conditions. Sup, teach? Here's that assignment you were asking for. Sorry if it's wet. What? No, yeah, I know it's 45 weeks late. I just hate you. What is up, my esteemed colleague? You think you could mark these for me? I gotta golf. Also, your wife wanted me to give you this? And of course, that level of disrespect trickles down through the entire system, all the way down into the stationery. Do you know what the running gag is with these pens? It's that they last forever. Do you know why big pens seem to last forever? It's because they suck, and they're not cool, and you never use them. Such an abysmal experience, you'd never think to pick one up and use it to write something. It's just occurred to me there's probably some big pen fans that are gonna be really angry in the comments today. But then one day at school, someone hands you this. You wanna try it? Yeah, of course you wanna try it, it looks cool and hip. And in that moment, your world changes. Writing is fun now. The pen glides across the page, the ink flows without interruption. It's the first time in your life that stationery is making your brain release dopamine. And it's absolutely intoxicating. You remember how big pens last forever because you don't use them? Well, you start using good stationery and you start burning through pens like there's no tomorrow. You can't wait to find excuses to use them. Even if the only good pen you have is a lime green Muji clicker, you're gonna write your PhD thesis with it because you just want to use it at every opportunity. And once you use it up, that's when you find out you need more. And then immediately after that, you find out the only source of more is across the ocean. A painful moment. And born of that pain is the instant demand for an underground Muji supply channel. Because you need to get your fix. And so from the wasteland of negligence that is the North American school system, rose the bizarre practice of having the homies buy you pens from overseas. Admittedly, teenagers spend money on dumb things. But when your world is so small, the thought of getting your hands on new pens that offer a fundamentally different experience in your day-to-day life is really something to look forward to. I think this was all also exacerbated by the growth of study blur and bullet journaling culture that was at its prime in those days, and it didn't tickle everyone's fancy, but for those with whom it resonated, it demanded that their notes be not only functional, but also aesthetically pleasing. But I think that's a story all of its own. In the end, Muji stationery isn't the end-all be-all for good stationery, but it was certainly a gateway. I would go on to find other brands that also did the trick and were considerably easier to obtain, and then I also went through a weird fountain pen phase. Wouldn't recommend that one. but Muji always stayed reliable and held a special place in my pencil case, even to this day. But that first time that Muji expanded into my area and I was able to just walk into a store and buy my own stationery, complication-free, is burned into my head forever.